Welcome to 365 Brothers. I'm your host, Robin Shine. This podcast introduces you to Black men from across the United States, their wisdom, their experiences, their joys. It also shares some of the triumphs after diversity. Basically, this podcast is about the humanity of Black men, just as it could be about the humanity of women, of white, of brown, of yellow. I focus on Black men in this podcast because of the statistics, the facts that Black men are more likely to be stopped by the police without a justifiable cause. Now, if you're questioning that, this podcast is the place for you to be. I ask each man the same 11 questions, and one of them asks about their interactions with law enforcement. The point of that question is to show the commonality in who is stopped, regardless of profession, regardless of age. The other thing is to just share the diversity of experiences of Black men outside of what you see on TV, in movies, outside of the stereotypes and the tropes. Now, if you're wondering, it is a subtle process. So don't just listen to one episode. I recommend listen to 5. When you listen to at least 5, you get it. You will truly get it. And after that, you'll either be hooked or not. But this is a 5-episode minimum, so get ready, get comfy. This is 365 Brothers. Welcome. Today, we're speaking to a native of Chicago, Illinois. He's a life coach and author, a numerologist, a psychic. He's also a father. And of the 3 books he's written, one of them is entitled Being a Male Doula. He's going to help us understand the rare genius mindset, and he is a spiritual master. Let's talk to Aubrey Sturdivant. Welcome, Aubrey.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here.
Is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners about yourself before we go into the questions?
So yes, indeed. I love my 3 beautiful kids, Josiah, Azariah, and Zosar. I love to be in love. I'm a loving father. I'm dedicated to my family, to my work, to my craft. And I work extremely hard, but easy at the same time, a balance of both worlds, in order to bring all of my dreams, my desires, my visions, and my heart's wisdom into manifestation. So I'm big on bringing forth a certain level of energy and a rare genius mindset to the day.
All right. Well, we're going to get to know this rare genius mindset as we go through the questions. So let's start with Aubrey, what's your favorite song and why, either now or all time?
It's called Peace of Mind by Lauryn Hill. It's so spiritual, it's so deep, because she was speaking so much truth in her lyrics, and she was speaking from her soul. She was speaking from her heart. And that song, it made me cry when I first heard it. So that's a powerful song.
What was it about the song that made you so emotional the first time you heard it?
She was speaking against the system. In other words, she was speaking against different things that was set in place and designed to keep Black people hindered. And she was speaking metaphorically in order to convey the message that she's so tired of going through the system and having to deal with so many different contracts and to deal with so much dishonesty and disloyalty towards her as an artist, and also towards her people. So she was very passionate about conveying her connection with God and how she's spiritually protected, and how she's gonna always, her and her people are gonna always come out on top.
See, now this is going to be one of those songs I'm going to be playing later today, because I'm not familiar with it. I may have heard it, but just not recognize it offhand. But now I got to go listen to it. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Yes.
what's a favorite childhood memory and why?
As soon as you said it, it popped up in my mind. I was learning to ride a bike, and it was a challenge for me to go from training wheels to actually being able to balance myself out and ride by myself. So it's sort of like the whole journey was a process that was, it was eye-opening, because it showed me that when I focus my mind towards one particular thing, I can manifest it with ease as long as I don't give up and I keep pushing forward. So I take that spiritual message from that particular scenario and memory.
Can I ask you, who taught you how to ride a bike?
Hmm. At that time, and I was 6 or 7, sometimes it was my mom, sometimes it was my stepfather, his name Tony, and they'd be showing me, walking me through it at certain times. But for the most part, it was more about them demonstrating it to me and me practicing it independently on my own.
You're the first to mention that particular aspect of coming of age. I think nearly all, maybe not every, but nearly all kids at some point, get an opportunity to, get on a bike, and they have to learn balance. And it's really a new relationship, because you've already developed a relationship with gravity through crawling and moving yourself across the floor, and then walking, and then running, and then now you're taking your relationship to gravity with the next level by having an intermediary, this bike. And I remember when I learned, we lived on a little court, commonly called a cul-de-sac now, except there was no house at the end. It didn't curve. There was just a wall at the end of the block. And but I honestly, I don't remember if for sure if it was my mom or my aunt or an uncle. I don't remember who was holding the bike the last time that I needed someone to hold the bike, but I do remember riding without anyone, without training wheels, without any adult holding on. And I remember exactly where I was and exactly the direction that I rode. So I hear what you're saying about that moment.
That's
Yeah.
so beautiful and powerful. That was just speaking to my spirit, because it was just making me think about so many different things. And I can relate, because I remember I have an image of the direction as well. So when you said that kind of like hit home.
Yeah. Sweet. Sweet. That's why I love conversation.
And
Um,
then, not to cut you off, but
no,
the
go
whole,
ahead.
I even remember the address. The address was 646, and I've been seeing 66 all today, and I've been seeing 4 as well. And anytime you see different numbers or different synchronicities, it's only a representation of what's taking place in the darkness of your mind, or
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's key.
Messages from the Matrix.
Exactly, because it's really encoded. It's really, one thing about numbers, they're predestined. And when a person is born, they're born with a certain number. And your birthday is like an energetic signature from God of what kind of energy you're gonna manifest yourself with in the physical. So it's a high vibrational aspect of that number, and it's also a low vibrational aspect of that number. And based upon the dates and the planetary alignments will determine what manifests. And everything that a person do is in connection with everything that's taking place in the heavens and the stars. So once you know that nature has a natural cycle that it takes, then you know that all you have to do is surrender to the universe, to the flow of things, to God, and everything is just going to flow to you when you flow with the ebb and flow of things. So it's just a matter of being in tune with the present moment, 100%.
Yeah, which, for a lot of people, that's work. For you, it was how your numbers aligned, who you are. Like it seems that it was natural for you to be in sync, or if not in sync at every moment, certainly aware of the flow such that you could choose. So let me ask you about accomplishments. And I asked
Okay.
this question in two parts. What is the accomplishment that means the most to you personally? And then which accomplishment is the one that when others hear it, they are like, oh, or wow. So let's start with the first. Which accomplishment is the one that means the most to you personally?
The accomplishment of me being an author and me writing 3 ebooks, that's a major thing for me personally. It's a very, very major thing. And I love it. I love it just from my level of dedication, my level of focus, me being in the flow and me being able to just write from my soul. And
Mhm.
also it just showing me that all things are possible, and so much so that you're far greater than you may believe or see or think or perceive yourself to be. So that accomplishment helped me have a more expansive point of view of myself, in other words. So I'm very thankful for my ability to achieve those 2 or 3 things, I should say.
Fantastic. And I I understand that completely because the thing about writing a book, it's such a journey of personal growth. I think more than if you've never, taken on a creative endeavor, whether it's making a quilt, painting or something that you're really committed to, not just as a, I'm just going to see what happens, but really committed to what it
Yeah.
conveys. You really have to deal with yourself in terms of what you want to say, and then finding out that what there is to say, that you're a co-writer. That's, I think, what a lot of people don't know unless you try to write a book, that process, you are a co-author, because there is some spirit of that book that
Mm.
knows what it wants in itself and knows what it doesn't. And it is such a fight. Oh my gosh, it can be.
Yes,
I'll just speak for
yes.
myself. It can be such a fight. Did you have that experience?
Oh yes, most definitely. I didn't mentally, logically dealing with the brain. I couldn't think about what to write. I had to write when I was able to just fill it out. When I was able to just flow from my heart, it allowed me to just flow. And when I was just flowing, everything was just, it was beyond me, it's still beyond me. So some days I force it, but I realized I can't force it.
Yeah, and I hear a theme here. I go back to what I said just a few moments ago about you being someone who is capable of recognizing flow so that you can jump in. It's almost like, why would you drop into a river and try to swim against the current? You want to look and see, where is it flowing? Where's the easier place? Where can I let the current pull me to conserve energy? And how you talk about writing reminds me of someone who knows how to conserve energy, because I'm like, I'm writing from 2 to 5, you know, and then it's
Yeah.
like, but you're not in the mindset to write from 2 to 4. You just spent your time arguing with yourself about why that sentence ain't right. And
Mm.
from 4 to 5, you were in flow and you got some work done. So
Oh,
yeah.
that was deep. I love that you just said that because that just sparked a thought. Like in the process of me writing it, I was thinking like I was actually doubting myself and thinking small of myself. And even though I'm extremely genius and I have a rare way of thinking, I was
Hmm.
still like, what if it's not good enough compared to society standard or other people's standard? Over time, I started to realize more and more as I was writing it, and I would get feedback from people just reading a sample version of it. It'll help me see myself from another point of view that'll help me have a deeper realization of self. Because in life, we don't learn anything. Life is a realization, and we're just realizing deeper deeper truths that's already within or that's already present, but we have to remove the falsehood in order to see the truth that's right in front of us. I
I
said
love
it.
how you just said that. There are people who've said similar things in different ways, but I really love how you just said, we're not learning anything, we're realizing, because all that there is that matters in life truly are these truths. And
you know, we have to unlearn all the beliefs we've been fed. And I have a conversation with a friend about beliefs all the time. And, you know, it's like there's all this stuff we learn in childhood, whether it be from what our parents learned and then teach us, or school, and all this junk. And then we've got to spend a lifetime letting go of as much junk as we can to have a little bit of joy.
Yes, yes, then I want to say, let's turn it around. Let's say it's a whole lot of joy and it's a little bit of bad, you know. You know, I,
Yeah,
I,
I like
always
that.
say, I always say that, you know, if we think small of ourselves, we see the situations as being big. But when we think big of ourselves, we see the situation as being really small. So
True.
it's all about what perception or what vibrational frequency or what vibrational aspect of you or perception of you that you chose to view the situation from. So I have something that you call circle perception. And it's sort of like a situation that is neutral. It has an infinite amount of different possibilities or perspectives or viewpoints, but you can choose whatever choice of perspective you choose. And you define a situation, but the situation don't define itself. So your thoughts add value to things, and every situation is new. So a problem isn't a problem until we mentally decide that a problem is a problem. So the limit is not even a limit. And the only limitations are the ones we dare to place upon ourselves. But then again, it's still not a limit, because you can't put us in a box, because we're born and made to supersede any box, you know.
You know, oh my gosh, you're saying something at 25 that you called it circle, what do you call it? Circle view?
The circle of perception.
Circle of perception. It's a wonderful term for something. I've been in a lot of courses about, you know, creating the story around something. And I remember basically that who we are as human beings are meaning making machines. And so if there's an apple on my desk, I don't just see an apple on the desk. There's like you were saying, circle perception. There is an infinite number of choices, of decisions, of meanings I could give it. And it's, oh, a student is appreciating me as a teacher. Or it could be, you know, if I'm in a, if my mindset is off, it could be, oh, somebody thinks I don't eat enough vegetables, so now they put an apple on my desk.
Right.
And we get to choose, and we don't even realize that when we're going through life, we're bringing the upset, because what happened happened, but it's what we say about what happened that determines our next action, our reaction. And we think what happened really means what we say it means, and that ain't true. Oh my gosh. Like, I remember my partner said, we were going to see his parents, and I had on a shirt. He looked at another one that was hanging up and he said, that's a nice shirt. And I was like, oh, okay. So he didn't want me to wear this shirt, which was true, by the way. So I changed shirts, but I had an attitude about it. So I was like, oh, okay. So you don't like how I pick my, and we had a 3-hour drive to get to his parents' place. Well, his father he passed away actually, but he'd been a pastor his whole life. It wasn't the first time I was going to meet them, but basically the shirt that I was going to wear, it was a little low cut, and I just wasn't thinking about it. And he was thinking about, you know, well, you know, my father's going to be, and so fortunately I had enough training and understanding to bring it up and say, instead of being pissy, I'm just going to use that word, instead of being pissy the whole ride up, I was like, hey babe, you know, when you pointed to that other shirt, like, I thought you were trying to say, you know, it kind of made me upset because I thought I had picked a nice outfit. And he's like, oh, no, it was a nice outfit. It's just that for meeting my dad, you know, I think something that didn't have as much cleavage would probably be more appropriate for him. And I was like, oh, and we had a wonderful weekend.
That's deep, because it goes so much. Like, I asked myself the question recently, a few days ago, do I even know my mother? Do I even know the mother of my child? And the reason I ask myself this is because you can have a perception of someone that the person doesn't have of themselves. And research study shows that we are only able to know a person up to 50 to 70%. And it's always like a 30 or 50% aspect or gap or part that we don't know of another person. And when I think of things from that point of view, and when I think that I'm even thinking from a very expansive point of view, I have to question my questions and study my thinking about my thinking. Even like with the concept of circle of perception, my brand is the rare genius mindset. So it's all about having your mindset on your rare genius way of thinking. And every person has a unique, rare way of thinking in reality. So even two people look at the same color red, they both see it totally different. And
Yes.
when I look at stuff like that, or even different concepts, one thing that I teach on, I help people tap into their rare way of thinking and their rare uniqueness and their rare genius by helping them take different concepts and think about what other people or them themselves are not thinking about.
So tell me about the accomplishment that's the one that others are like, oh, wow. So which one is that?
Me basically being a pescatarian, me only eating like seafood, or me being able to not eat until 3 or 5 in the afternoon, and just
Yeah.
fast a daily basis. Because I've been training myself over the last few years of just having a certain level of mental discipline and focus. So I used to do different techniques. Like it's a certain pose that I used to hold, and it's a very challenging pose because it's all about focusing your energy and holding your energy on. It's like you're sitting on a chair, but you're not actually sitting on a chair, but you're holding that pose for 30 minutes to an hour. And the bigger you are, the harder it is to hold it. And even if you're not big, it's still going to be hard to hold it because it's all about duration and time. So, and patience and focus and pushing yourself. So a lot of things that I'm able to achieve now, like me even sleeping 3 or 4 hours every night, all throughout the weeks, and being able to have so much mental clarity and so many different downloads because of my level of focus and discipline over the years.
So when I said, other people it's the one that kind of impresses others, is that because a lot of the people that you're around, maybe family, friends, they are meat eaters in terms of, fowl and flesh versus fish. And so they kind of are surprised at the discipline that you have in terms of what you put into your body.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Just from that, but also me just changing my whole lifestyle around. So really just my approach to life in general was something they was just extremely surprised by, from my background, or me living in the city of Chicago and me having a super productive or positive mindset and focus at such a young age. It's an anomaly.
So basically, what I hear is that you are providing an example to the people around you about living purposefully. And I hear purposefully in terms of in alignment with your gifts, purposefully in terms of how you treat your body, because it is uncommon for someone of your physical age to already be so clear about the body as a vessel for all that you want to do in life. So I totally get that as an accomplishment. And I acknowledge you as well, because that is because I could say discipline, but I also get that saying discipline is not really what you're saying. It's not about discipline, because discipline can also imply some kind of sacrifice. But for you, it's really just living in alignment with what's appropriate for your body.
I love that. I love how you said that. You put the icing on the cake with that one.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted. So let me ask you about words. What's your favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book?
Oh, my favorite quote. is don't go where the path may lead, but go where there's no path at all and leave a trail.
Ew.
And
Yeah.
that's just somebody else's quote. Now, if I'm saying my favorite quote, then I want to say two quotes, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first one is, never highlight someone else's characteristics and abilities over your characteristics and abilities. The second one is, someone else's thinking doesn't matter without your thinking about their thinking. And those two quotes, it allows me to put things in perspective so that I can have a different thoughts to pull from in certain moments.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm.
So now I want to ask you about a moment, conversation, person, or event that stands out as changing the trajectory of your life or having a significant impact on your life.
My son, like, me having my first child was like, that's amazing. It's me birthing myself into existence, and it's my twin. I get to see myself. So I remember being a young man and a young boy and a young teen, thinking about my son, what he would look like, how he would think, and him being so advanced like he is, him being handsome like he is, or him just being like me, like he is. And me just seeing all of these things in my mind and feeling it in my heart for years and years, even as a young boy. For me to see him, I feel like I've always been connected with him, and it just came to light. And I feel like he's revealing higher truths to me, and he's here to teach me so many different things. So he teach me how to teach him. And I always say that there's a difference from seeing your child as your child from seeing your child as your twin. Because when you see your child as your child, then it's more of a, I'm up here and you're down there. But, or, I'm your mom or I'm your dad, and I can treat you in any kind of way because I'm your mom or I'm your dad. So from me looking at life with that kind of mindset, it allows me to focus towards being different from what I came across from my life in individually growing up. And that pushes me forward to be better as a person and to also connect with my son, because he is me and I am him, and we're one. Just like me and my daughters, we're one. So for me to have him and to have them, that's priceless. I'm rich every day because of them.
I really love your view. I mean, again, it just reminds me of conversations I've had with someone else in my life. And
yes
you're not, we talk about like the word authority, and a lot of parents identify from the role of authority over the child, which we're talking about, versus really being interested in what relationship works best with this child. And it takes a lot for a lot of people to be able to step back enough to really consider the individuality of that child. And I just, I acknowledge you for relating to your children as unique individuals who have something to teach you, that it's not one way, because you will, as a parent, teach them things. That goes without saying. But
yes,
to be so cognitively clear that they also are here to teach you, I wish more parents had that same view. There, I'm not saying you're the only one. I'm just saying I wish those who don't could
I know
expand into that. Yeah.
I wish more women had your point of view, and because that's a very important thing for a man to be a man. A man is a man because of his woman, or because of a woman in his life, or the woman that's around him, or he's lacking in being a man because of the woman that's not there. and whether she's there physically, she may not be there spiritually or emotionally. And I grew up and always found value in emotional support more than financial support. And I feel like as an old soul, we can go through that a lot as challenges, or not only as old souls, but also as ancient rare souls. And as ancient souls, we can feel so deeply at a young age, and we can come into this world so misunderstood because the world is already telling us, how we should be, what we should eat, what we should wear, or how to walk, how to talk, what's right, what's wrong,
Yep.
do this, do that, how what to think and not how to think, or all of these different standards that we're born into. We're born taking on an identity that's less than who we truly are.
That right there, it's such a powerful statement. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone convey that profundity in such a succinct way.
Yes, I love your choice of words. Yes.
So let me ask you this. What's a moment or event that highlights your experience as a Black man in the United States?
The first thing I went through is, as a young boy in maybe the 3rd grade, I had a teacher lie and say, I threw a chair at the teacher when I knocked over the chair, just storming out the classroom or something. But I wasn't even by the teacher. But that was a big event that sent me to alternative school, where it was a major focus on my thinking, my behavior, and my anger, and all of these different things. So from them telling me, okay, you have a learning disability, because I was labeled to have a learning disability. And now that I'm older and wiser, and I'm a teacher myself, I now can go back and reassess the situation and say, no, it's not that I had a learning disability. It was actually the teacher's inability to adapt to the way in which I needed to be taught. It's just like if you're a parent, if you have 2 different kids, you may need to teach them 2 different ways. And they may not understand why they get 2 different treatments, but they have to understand that they're not exactly the same. Teachers have to know how to adapt to other people's ways of learning and being able to compromise and work with them. So me going through being misunderstood in the system, and basically being told that, I have this issue and I think less intelligent than the next person, and the other people that's in a regular class, they regular and I'm special. At first I thought it was a bad thing, but looking back at it with a spiritual lens, I now see that, oh yeah, that was divinely inspired. I was really always meant to be special. I always was special. I was born special. So I was meant to be in that circumstance. But what I take from all of the so-called past negativity is that it was also positive. So I transform it as an alchemist. So I realized that it wasn't the other way around, that it was something negative and I made it positive. I realized that it always was positive. I just made it negative. So
Well, and it goes back to, there's what happened and then there's what we make it mean. So we're constantly making meaning from it. And it's only natural that most students would make that, something negative, or at least be curious about, well, why do I have to be separate from, the quote unquote regular? But I love how you were able to, like you said, through your spiritual lens, reframe it and see it. It was just another affirmation of your being unique and rare, the way that you are unique and rare.
Yes. Ashe, I love it.
So as someone who's a teacher, I'm going to guess it's what happened was there was some interaction, something either that you didn't want to do or you did do something. There was a difference of opinion between you and the teacher. It wasn't resolved. You got upset and you knocked the chair down. And then to make sure that you had an appropriate punishment, rather than say what actually happened, she added on extra by saying you threw a chair at her.
Yes, yes, indeed. That's so true. You you nailed it on the head. Look, and
That's because as an educator, I know too often. I just have to take this moment to say that as a person who is a teacher and have talked with teachers, teachers do that. Like, there are people who think teachers are just all this and you got to believe everything they say. Teachers lie. In short, teachers lie. And so I just had to add my 2 cents, because some listener might be, how does she know? Wait, because I know that teachers lie.
and I got another experience, like in the system, like maybe 3 years later. It was another situation that was like almost like a ripple effect. So as I'm transitioning back into public schools, because what I used to do was I used to go to the bad boy school, which they call technically our alternative school. Me transitioning back into a public school, you know, it was like half of the day I go to the one school, then at the end of the day I go to another school. And me shifting and me slowly progressing back into a regular school, it was like a gradual process. And in that process, I went to one school and I was a new student, and the teacher was of a different ethnicity and background and culture, and she was teaching classes of all Black students. So she left from the classroom. She really left out the building and went into a next building, and she left us by ourselves, which was something she did not supposed to do. So when she did that, the kids that was already there, they was bad, quote unquote. So what happened was a girl, she threw a stapler and it hit me in the arm and I started bleeding. But since the teacher came after the fact and she know that she wasn't supposed to be gone, she had to cover it up. And since me being a new student, it was a perfect opportunity to make it all about me, because I'm changing from an alternative school into a public school. So basically, I was bleeding and there was an altercation, and she know that I'm gonna say something about it because it's something that happened that caused me physical harm when she wasn't even there. So her immediate response, so her response was more about looking out for her own better interest than being truthful. So when she wrote up the report about the situation, she created a different version of it in order to save her position.
So what
So
did she say happened?
she said I did something to her and something like that, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I was the start of it. Even though the witnesses, you know, saw the truth, but the class was on her side because that was their teacher, you know, and I was a new student. So
Right. No, I can totally see how that goes down. The reason that she needs you to start it is because if not, then she's allowed a student to be harmed under her watch. And then the question is going to be, how did it get to that and what exactly happened? And so I totally get it. So now I'm going to ask you about your interactions with law enforcement. Have you had any interactions with law enforcement? And if so, what or when?
yes. So I caught a case at the age of 17. I had just turned 17. It was like 2 months after my birthday, and I was selling drugs, misguided, living to impress, and looking for a different stream of income besides getting a job. You know, being a Black man in America, or even a Black teen, there's so many different limited resources and so many different um, systems and circumstances put in place to keep us hindered as people. So me knowing that, you know, I stepped out into the streets striving to find what I couldn't find in the school system. which was basically a connection with people on a deeper level. When you're in a school system, it's just a system that they run and they work, but it's not based upon your needs. It's based upon what they feel that they need for you, and not fully based upon what the public or the community are saying that they need. But in the midst of it, I was taking a risk, and I got the spiritual message from my mom, my auntie, don't sell drugs, this person don't sell drugs, and I'm still doing it, and
Mm-hmm.
I was living from the outside in and not from the inside out. I started to see that God was testing me. So I was still like, God allowed me to get away one summer without getting caught. The next summer, God like, oh no, this your day. Today is your transformation. So it was a whole steam operation, and they had like one of their bosses or managers or lieutenants or something like that out there. They was recording me. They had an undercover cop and all of these different things, So I caught a case. I went through the system. I wasn't making the best decisions, but even the worst decisions are some of the best decisions over time when you flip it around. And I learned that particular experience, it set me on this path to be who I am today. When I got caught, I got blessed because I only had 2 years house arrest. I mean, not house arrest, but probation. And I did 3 months on house arrest. And that's when I had my major spiritual awakening. And that's when I came across a lot of information that my spirit led me towards, that sparked a major shift in my perspective about myself and about life. And I just started to see a whole lot of signs since then. That case, it was the best, worst thing that happened to me and for me. And I'm thankful for it because it shows me who I'm not, but it also shows me who I am. So from just that experience alone, it helped me see how certain people could destroy their community, even me at once upon a time. But like I always say, it's not about what happened, it's about what you do after what happens that makes all the difference.
Okay,
And
well, what is love to you?
love is when you feel just free in your heart, in your spirit, in your chest. Love is something you're obsessed with doing, whether it's doing something or multiple different things in a day that makes you happy or joyful. Like whatever brings you towards yourself, and whatever brings you in harmony within yourself is a form of love to me. Because like even meditation, you have what they call mindfulness meditation, which is different forms of meditation, which is playing a game, walking your dog, whatever you consider as being something relaxing. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's the simple things that brings us so much joy. I just want to say something real quick
Yeah.
about the concept of God. So I feel like God is everywhere. And I feel like God is everywhere. It's everywhere around you. How you cannot see it. So I don't feel like the question is, um, what is God or who is God? I feel like the question should be, what isn't God?
Mm.
Who isn't?
That's beautiful. I'm definitely gonna leave that in because that I love that. That flips it on its head. Um, what is something you've learned through your profession, training, experiences, or adventures that you believe more Black men should know?
Mm, I love that. So I feel like many Black men should understand the law of attraction. One thing I always say is you get what you give, you reap what you sow, what you send out, you get back what you think you attract.
Say what you said again and slow because it was so beautiful.
You get what you give, you reap what you sow, what you mentally send out, you get back, and what you think you attract.
Mm,
So
mm,
I feel like once you understand that, and you go throughout life with that thought process, it'll make it easier for males or females or women or men, or for the youth or people in general to go throughout life and to look at life like, okay, everything in the universe is energy. Everything is frequency. Everything I experience is all based upon my vibrational frequency today. So if I experience something negative, or if I have a disagreement or anything, no matter what it is, or something beautiful or magical, it's a reflection of my frequency and the energy I've been sending out over the last few days, or what I send out in the next few seconds or few minutes is going to determine what takes place in the next 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 seconds. So I feel like it's very important just for the youth to understand the power of the mind, because the mind is different from the brain. The mind is being downloaded into the brain. The brain is a physical organ, but the mind is the invisible conscious.
Sometimes when I ask that question, I'll say, what do you think more Black men should know? And knowing that whatever you say is applicable to everyone. And sometimes I say it and sometimes I don't. And I love that I didn't say it, but you knew to put that in, because that really is the intention of that question. It's like, yes, I am asking a brother to speak to other brothers. And at the same time, that wisdom, that knowledge, whatever is shared is it's really soul to soul. And I hope my listeners know that I know it's soul to soul, but if anyone doubt it, trust me, I know it's soul to soul.
Yes, Ashe, I love it. Hey, hey. Woo! I love it. I love your every word. I just be quiet because sometimes, some things are beyond words, and I don't even. Sometimes silence are the best words to describe things.
Yeah. Ooh. 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 You just spoke to my heart right there. Like you really just took your finger and went right inside my heart and kind of gave it a tickle, because for me, what you just said reminds me of my love of the experience of awe.
Yes.
And in a moment of awe, the best word to say is no word, nothing. And that's the beauty of a conversation, and to listen in on someone else, because all you and I are doing is having a conversation, and everyone who listens, whenever they listen, whether it's next month, a year from now, or 5 years into the future, when they listen, the back and forth, they will get whatever they get from it. But it's in us having a conversation and bringing it out. And then kind of like when you talked about the color red and how, two people can look at the same color red and think that they are seeing the same thing, but in reality, their unique perspectives are seeing uniquely red the way they do. The same thing with everyone who listens. They're going to hear that back and forth we just did, and each one of them is going to take what they take from it the way that they take it.
Right. And that makes me think some other people are going to come on. They're going to do some podcast shows, and salute to all of them. I'm not taking away from them, but they're do their thing and they got a piece of the puzzle, and we pick up where each other lack. But I also know, like what you just said, no matter how many people do what you do, no one can do it how you do it. And that's what makes you you. And what makes you different is what makes you special. And what makes you special is what makes you you. So always be you.
Hey. I love it. Okay, so here is where I ask you this question.
Yes.
So now that we've had this conversation, I'm interested in hearing what you got for yourself out of answering and being in this conversation.
It makes me even more energized to speak to people about the importance of teaching kids the importance of self-love, self-acceptance, and different things like that. But it also makes me see the different things that I have been through in the past that appeared to be negative at that phase. But when you go through the process and you come out on the other side and you look back at it with a spiritual lens, with a spiritual eye, then you're able to see the higher purpose behind it. And then to be able to even reap the benefits of going through the darkness and transforming that into light, and the seed that it led me to be on a podcast here today with 365 brothers, that is amazing. Because not only am I teaching, but I'm also speaking for all of my brothers. And that's a very important thing, because if I'm listening in and another brother is speaking, his story relates to my story, because what he go through, I go through, because the moment he express it or the moment I express it, he's gonna feel me or she is gonna feel me. Even if they didn't go through the exact same thing, they're gonna be able to relate that experience to something they experienced, different but very similar enough to speak to them, to make them connect and harmonize with my message. And I feel like whenever we come together, we create the ultimate bigger picture. I just got a piece of the puzzle. I don't know everything. But when I come together with my other brothers, with my 365 brothers, then that creates a certain level of synergy and harmony on the planet that produces an electromagnetic energy field of love that amplifies the community, that amplifies the planet. So that's the power of the mind and of the connection of 365 brothers, because every year there's 365 days in a year. And I always say, if you make 1% change every day for 365 days, then guess what, brothers? Even when you get out of jail, you can make 1% change every day for 365 days. And that'll be 365% of change. And imagine if you flip it 2% every day for 365 days, that's 730% of change. That's the power.
I have a friend. In fact, we meet up every Tuesday evening. And her organization is called In Her Shoes, and it's about empowering women. The whole point, the motto, if you would, is, what if you were 1% more courageous? That is the whole purpose. It's her workshops are around catalyzing courage, and she just asks every young girl, what would happen if you were 1% more courageous? And that's what the workshops are about, because and so I'm just resonating and vibing with your 1% better each day. It's like, just one new thing, one higher thought a day. Whatever your thought was, make it higher. And then every day take one thought, make that thought a little higher, raise it to the next level. You make that a habit, and it is inevitable.
Yes. Talk your talk.
That you will grow. So one of the things that I love that you said was about the connection. When you hear someone else's story, it can actually serve to help you heal what was unexpressed in you. Like you hear it expressed in someone else, and then it either heals you or it gives you access to something new. I love that you basically acknowledge that in what you said. So thank you.
Thank you as well for everything you just said. I love the way you just said it. And you just really said what I was attempting to convey in so many words. And I couldn't, as you were saying about, being able to say it with certain words, you was speaking to my spirit by describing that with certain words. And that was speaking to me. So thank you as well.
Yeah. Well, I always end with an acknowledgement. And right now, the first thing I want to say to you is, thank you for being me in the world as you.
Yes. Look, I am that I am because you are who you are.
Exactly.
Yes.
And someone who can't hear right might think I was being egotistical when I said that, but you and I both know that it is high praise when we can recognize the the spirit in another. And that really what I want to say is thank you for being someone who's so connected to spirit. Thank you for being someone who recognizes that every soul is in evolution to the next higher vibration. And you have committed your work as a life coach, as a psychic, as a numerologist. You know, people can judge if they want to judge. That's none of my business if they're judgmental. But I want to say, I acknowledge you for committing your interests and your passions to the empowerment of others. Thank you, Aubrey.
Thank you. Woo! Woo! that is so amazing. You just made my heart smile. My heart's still smiling.
Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. I certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.